Hey guys, it's me, April from The Good, the Bad, and the Crazy, and you're watching me, and I will be your crazy for today. I just want to talk a second about a situation that involves like COs and prisoners in all across America. There are some things that go on with them as far as like selling drugs or doing whatever for the inmates, and it might be all well and good, but back in 1981, there was a woman, and her name was Donna Payant, and she was one of the first women to work at Greenhaven Correctional Facility in New York. And at that time, it was known to be a pretty much maximum security prison. It housed 1,800 prisoners, 500 of which were murderers, I guess, when doing their sentence there for murdering someone else. And it was pretty violent crimes that they were there for. It wasn't like a newcomer's prison. Um, So she was one of the first women to actually work there, and she was described as a very strong-willed individual, and she had a strong sense of justice and, um, you know, there to do her job, basically. She was 31 years old. She has three children, and she had a husband who was also a correctional officer, but he didn't actually work at that prison. He worked at a different one in the state. Her family accepted her job choice, obviously, and they were very proud of her. But there were some other COs or correction officers that didn't, because it was brand new. It was 1981, and she was like one of the first women to work at that facility. So they weren't all on board with it, I guess you could say. While she was in training at the academy, there was an instructor that entered her room at night without an invitation, and she did go on to pursue a sexual harassment suit, but then she did retract it. So, and that's very common. Um, all the time, things happen to women and they retract whatever happens to them just so they don't go on with any, especially in a field like hers, if it had happened, so she doesn't get any more backlash, I guess you could say, um, to deal with, because you deal with a lot of junk anyway. She didn't want to have to deal with any backlash from her other COs. Um, So when she was on duty, I believe it was May 15th, 1981, she received a phone call in the cross halls, and she was there speaking with two other officers, and on the phone, someone had asked for Donna. She had gotten on the phone, and when she left, she had said, she seemed really upset. She had said something to the effect of, "I'm going to put an end to this right now. I'm stopping this," something along those lines. The two people she was standing there with didn't really know what she was talking about, but Donna seemed very stern in her voice and seemed pretty alarmed and upset about the phone call, but nobody knew who it was on the other line. Um, and then she did seem to keep the call private because she kind of turned her back to the other two people, so they really couldn't hear anything. Um, but it was about 5 hours later when they did the evening roll call for the officers, and Donna Payant came up as absent. That they knew that she was missing from the facility, but there was no scene of her checking in and then leaving, like checking out and going somewhere. It was just that she checked in and she should be in the facility somewhere, and she's not. So they had a lockdown on the facility. All the prison was locked down. No one was coming in or out. They combed the facility, all the cell logs, all the um, cells in the cell blocks to see where she was, and it was to no avail. She was not in the facility at all. The next day, officials had gotten a phone call that they had found a body of a blonde-haired woman um, in the landfill that the prison did. It's you know you, um, they took out the trash to a truck, and the truck went to that landfill. So they had found the very mutilated body of a blonde haired woman in a CO uniform, and it was later confirmed to be Donna Payant. Um, her sister and family was notified to come to the prison, and she said as soon as she walked in there, she knew that something was wrong just because of how everyone was standing there waiting to tell her something. And it was about her sister, and it was that she was found in the landfill, and the cause of death was strangulation. She had ligatures around her neck. She was also sexually assaulted, and there was a bite mark. Um, and you know, people, like the officials and everyone, had thought that it was pretty much like a signature wound of someone, like a signature crime of someone who had done it before. Um, they did comparisons on the bite mark, and they also, it was pretty sad because um, during that time while the body was there, she had all her bones broken and there was much debris on her. So I feel like, and it was said that like all the evidence that would have been on her would have been, pretty much, it was no good. It was false or tampered with, and you can't really say, oh, this is this and this is that because of the mutilation that had occurred, whether it was before death or after it. Like, you can't really tell because of everything that the body had went through from point A to point B. Um, so with everything that they know so far, in the case at Greenhaven and all that, they were kind of looking for maybe a guard or an inmate. They really didn't know which, because it really, in my opinion, would have to be one of the two, because you don't just have random people on that site at all. Like, you have to have identification and credentials and all those other things that would keep you there. So it's pretty locked down. It's a prison, so who else would be there besides the guards and the prisoners? It wouldn't just be any random person besides the, visitors that are only selected to be in a certain area. Um, so if it was a prisoner, how would they have access to it? It would have to be someone with more um, access or credentials than a normal prisoner, someone who had been there for a long time, that had worked their way up on the totem pole, basically, to do whatever. So another guard was talked about in having a heated argument a few days prior to this her body being discovered with her. Because she was known as a whistleblower or whatever because of the sexual harassment suit that she did retract earlier in her field, and prior to her becoming into that field. She retracted that statement, but people still remembered that. So she was kind of known as a whistleblower or whatever. If something was going on, she would be one of the people to stand up and say, no, this isn't right. I'm not going to stand for it. I'm going to say something. So she was having an argument with another guard, and I didn't ever find out what that person's name was, but it was about her knowing that there were illegal goings ons, like the drugs that were coming into the facility by the guards to the inmates, and also like kind of like prostitutions that was going on from the guards to the inmates. So it was kind of like a secret that had been going on for years, but because of her earlier claims, people were scared to have her know about it, and he was arguing with her about it, and she wasn't going to stand for it because it just wasn't right. So maybe he was the one that could have done something. But there also was a prisoner named Lemuel Smith, and he had all the signature killings of someone that would have done that to her. He had killed someone, Marilee Wilson, in the past, and had been convicted of her murder, and it all had the same signature killings as the ligatures, the sexual assault, the bite marks, and he did it, and he was convicted on her case and someone else's. So they basically were pinning it on him, but Greenhaven was putting it on this person. He says that he didn't do it. To this day, he says he didn't do it, and he was convicted of it. But even her sister says that she doesn't know if it was really Lemuel that did this. She doesn't believe it. She believes that it was the guards. And I'm not really sure. This case is kind of crazy because, she goes to work one day. There was said to be rumored a relation, like a friendship, not a relationship, but a friendship between um, Donna and Lemuel, because she worked on his block a lot, and he went to wood shop and he was going to make a jewelry box for her or something of that effect. Maybe the embarrassment of receiving a gift from a prisoner got to her, and the rejection that he felt could have made him explode and kind of go off on her. But a lot of it kind of seems like, well, do the guards pay a prisoner to do something like this? Because he was already in there for murder, so he's going to stay there regardless. Like, he's not leaving. So could the guards have paid him off to do something like this? Or was it a guard, or was it just Lemuel who felt rejected by, his friend not taking the gift that he had made her? Who who really knows at this point? Um, I'm gonna be doing a little more research into it and seeing what I can figure out. But he was convicted of the crime, but did he really do it? There's a lot of things that happen like this every day in America, and it's really sad to see people go away and be forced to deal with something that they had never even really committed. But when someone says that, no, you did this, and I see this, and this is what this is, and you don't have the money for the lawyer or the backing up to take care of your case, you're kind of just gonna, I don't know. I don't know if he really did it, or maybe the guards paid him to do it, or what really happened, but it's a really strange case because, she went to work one day and ended up in the landfill the next day. How did that happen? And no one really says anything besides, oh, well, this prisoner did it. It's so always easy to blame it on him. But thanks, guys, for letting me talk about my story. If you have any comments, I'd love to hear them, or any more stories, I'd love to hear what they are, and if I can dig into them, I will. Please like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day.